that The Dark Knight provided. Because when The Dark Knight had the first shot of the opening city, I saw this movie. There's two different Gregs when it comes to movie theater experiences. There's Greg before YouTube and Greg after YouTube. And Greg after YouTube, the second this channel started, suddenly became about having to watch things and making sure my brain was on to review it and talk about it and whatever. Even when in the days when it was getting like 50 views, it was a very different mindset moving forward. I saw The Dark Knight 9 times in the theaters before there was a YouTube channel. And I have never done that with any movie. It was solely because I loved it so much. And that first opening scene, almost every time I saw it, there were people in the crowd. That opening shot of Gotham where people were, oh, you could hear people murmuring, people uncomfortably laughing at how scary it was to see this one giant shot. Now we're so used to it. But damn, back then, it was something because, look, I didn't have a great first time the first time I watched Dark Knight. I saw it in a regular screen. I had waited outside for like 12 hours, and that was stupid because it was midnight, and I was so tired. And John, you were there, right? John was there. And I had been dipping in and out of sleep, and it felt like a nightmare. And I thought it was like
Joker showing up at weird interval.
And it was such a dark movie from watching Batman Begins. It was such a dark movie that I didn't really appreciate it. So then I went back the second day on a regular screen and it was so much better. But I was like, I'm trying to replace that feeling of missing out on the first. And then when I saw it on IMAX and then they had all those other scenes in the IMAX and just watching Christian Bale and Heath Ledger in the interrogation scene on the big screen, I knew this was a rare time where on this massive format, this format where you are truly sucked in from the sound and the visuals, that this is going to be a rare opportunity and I needed to soak this in. So after work, back then you'd have to go to, I would go to Costco to get these discount AMC tickets and they would allow me to get it and they didn't do reserved seating and I wanted my perfect seat. So I would get there a couple hours early and 6 times on IMAX to get there a couple hours early. And I wouldn't go to the bathroom. Even if I had to go, I had to absorb this film. And ever since Dark Knight, I feel like I have thought about this movie at least once a day since I saw it. It is just something that pops into my head every once in a while. It is undoubtedly, like when I talk about it, some people, well, I'm not here to try to sound smart, obviously. I'm not trying to be like, because the themes and, and with Batman sacrifices and criminals and choice.
Talking about the Kushlov effect and how Batman and the Dark Knight are next to each other.
See, that stuff, I'm just talking about the movie theater experience was unrivaled to me back then with that specific film. No other movie has been able to quite capture that. And whenever I sit in those IMAX seats, I'm brought back to that nostalgia. So that's why I say a lot like, hey, I don't shill for any studio, but I will shill for a format. And that is the IMAX format. So yeah, I think that was like the most impactful movie theater experience. I have other stories of impactful ones, but what's like an impactful movie theater experience for you?
It's nowadays it's very much looking at technology and like seeing something like Sinners and having tentpoles like The Dark Knight like as points of comparison where you're kind of activated of like, oh, that's what movies can do. And especially being someone who has the subjective experience of like, I love movies and like it's part of my DNA. It's part of just understanding that other people don't care about them as much as I do, but then you have those rare experiences like seeing The Dark Knight in IMAX where everybody, even if you're a movie fan or not, kind of has a collective, whoa, we're all like understanding like this is different and that there's a kind of fundamental now point of comparison for and why like I think The Dark Knight like stands so strong as a movie that you can think about every day because it's still kind of the best version of like a lot of those examples, whether it's like other superhero movies were coming out, talking about themes, talking about like deconstruction and artistic intent and Christopher Nolan's Batman being specifically his in comparison to now other versions. But that feeling of, oh, that's what movies can do. Like Christopher Nolan keeps saying that IMAX is just 3D without the glasses, and that sense of feeling involved, feeling like immersive, and feeling like it's a medium that we still have not explored like the greater, boundaries of and sort of that. But for me, The Dark Knight just had that experience of like, whoa, wait, you can do that with Batman? You can do that with a movie like Love Batman Begins. I was 13. I was in that same summer as Iron Man. Like The Dark Knight was one of those kind of activators for me in terms of like, oh, wait, other people take movies seriously in that I'm going to take the reality of this world kind of at face value. I'm someone who grew up with Batman and Robin, grew up with Batman Forever, and just understood that that is that category of films. But The Dark Knight was the 13-year-old of unconsciously not thinking about IMAX as a format, unconsciously like not, really thinking about the intent behind all these decisions, but understanding of why does this feel different? It looks different. It like is engrossing in that way. So having and being obsessed with Two-Face for a while after that movie of just that is the scariest thing I've seen in a PG-13 movie like ever. And understanding of that was a movie that kind of spoke to me in terms of like, hey, you're old enough to understand that the love interest does not make it out of movies. You're old enough to start understanding that it gets complex when you're dealing with a toy box and you're dealing with something that represents ideals. And so The Dark Knight is in that kind of pantheon where it's the less kind of obvious, like, oh, that was a movie theater experience that actually shaped kind of how I was supposed to intake movies. But
So yeah, I object against when people say it's like only due to Heath Ledger's performance, because yes, we'll be like the millionth, billionth person to say that it is undoubtedly one of the greatest performances of all time. Especially though, like in the theater experience, there was a weird relationship with the audience at the time because we all knew that Heath Ledger had passed, and this was his final huge on-screen role. He had that Terry Gilliam one, Parnassus or whatever.
Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Parnassus? Okay,
something like that.
So I know that was like eventually going to come out, but this was something completely different. This was this huge tentpole movie, and he's playing the Joker, and this was our chance to experience Heath Ledger in his raw, in one of his really raw performances. And he gave us that, and you got to really feel like you were living in it when you were on the big screen with him, especially in the IMAX format. Like the interrogation scene wasn't even done with IMAX cameras, but in the format, it's still like the scope and the size and the ability to pull you in. But then even the chase scene when the slaughterhouse one, and then with the bike, all that fun stuff. Those sequences are not even, that doesn't even have music in most of that scene. And you are just wrapped in the sound design of this fight and the tension of this chase sequence that is not reliant at all on being bombastic with noise. They're letting you take in the night. I'm trying to understand what was it about. And on top of that too, because in the theaters, it is also an incredibly menacing film. It's a very menacing, dark
It's not
movie.
an easy watch, but it's super watchable.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing quite like it. It's so entertaining, yet it's a really kind of grim tale.
It's almost the kind of, the phrase doesn't apply, but it works here of when people say it's greater than the sum of its parts, of like all of its parts are fantastic, but it has this weird magic, and you're kind of illuminating something I've never thought of just it has that engrossing element where the technology is going into making sure the action sequences are like, you're in it. You're like in the chase scene, you're in the final Batman fight. But even if that interrogation scene isn't shot in IMAX, it still has that immersion quality just because of, well, Christopher Nolan's really good at directing, it turns out. And also just that element of, I don't know, it's the first example of like, oh, it's a different Joker than the one we're used to. We're so used to now doing the comparison game to other movies, but this is the first one that's like, no, you understand what has come before, and this is how we're using it now. Sit in the moment, live with it, see how we're doing it specifically, and understand that like this movie is trying to say something with the pieces it has versus, oh, it's Batman. You know he has to fight the Joker. Fill in the blanks. We'll go in from there. But it's the fill in the blanks for this movie are the, a hero lives long enough to become the villain. It has, again, all the themes, all the deeper things that like past the textual level. It just, again, why each visual, like you can have the comparison, the two sides of oh, that was, can we swear?
Yeah, sure.
This is fucking awesome, like in terms of a shot. But then also, what does it mean? What does it mean in terms of Batman psychology and then like Joker psychology?